Good evening. We begin with breaking and very sad news tonight. A short time ago, our colleague Peter Harvey passed away after his battle with pancreatic cancer. He was surrounded by his family in hospital. We begin our bulletin with this special tribute.
More than 1 million men are now standing to at battle stations out there. Mr Hawke told Parliament that all the relevant documents in the Mick Young affair were already contained.
We all thought our friend's voice would roll on forever.
But probably the night's most important reaction is coming from Labour MPs.
It seems like it's always been there.
A constant, enduring remembrance of things and people.
For 37 years with Channel 9, covering big politics, big wars.
There are no reports of damage and no reports of injury.
But also the little triumphs of life.
Does it matter what side of the road you're driving on?
And learning along the way how to face his own mortality, fighting pancreatic cancer.
When the lethargy gets very bad, push through it, get up, go to work.
Peter was born a Bondi boy and began his career as a cadet at Sydney's Daily Telegraph. He made the Australian journo's traditional pilgrimage to Fleet Street, where he would be celebrated as British Reporter of the Year.
Change in the weather was the last thing anybody forecast.
Peter was always drawn to the big story and switched to the American magazine Newsweek, covering the war in Vietnam. Never too precious, Peter was always ready to do a spoof of himself.
If you've ever wondered what it feels like to be sitting in your living room when the earth starts to move, then this is the place for you.
And I've been occasions there where I've done stuff for a current affair, and Pete's been out doing stuff for news beforehand, of course. And let's say the Anzac Day we've done a couple of times, and I come round the corner in George Street, and there's Pete, and I think, oh, damn. You know, I'm up against Harvey, now I've got to lift my game.
Back in Australia in 1975, Peter joined our political team in Canberra in the corridors of power.
He was there for all the big things. He was there at the end of 1975 and on November 11, the dismissal.
He could still break away to cover the world.
Peter Harvey, National 9 News, Baghdad, in Washington, in Moscow, at Petra, in Jordan.
But Canberra was his daily patch, from the Whitlam dismissal through a clutch of other leaders and would-be leaders.
Peter Harvey was a fierce competitor when we worked for rival networks and a valued colleague in the 13 years we were together in the 9 Networks Canberra Bureau. One of the things I most admired about him was the way he mentored younger members of the staff. Peter's was a generous spirit. He's a real loss to journalism.
Peter Harvey, Canberra.
Those words, the most famous sign-off in Australian television.
Peter Gravy, Canberra.
Elevated to almost cult status by radio journalist Mike Carlton. Mike and Peter were rivals on the Canberra round.
The media in those days, we're talking 40 years ago, was a very tiny little fish pond then, and all the fish knew each other. Peter was always a larger-than-life personality. He was a big bloke to start with, but he had character and he had presence.
Another iconic era for Peter was with the program The Ticks. On the road.
Just a short time after the rocket hit on this apartment building in Haifa, that's exactly what the family would have been doing up there, sitting around that table.
If there was one abiding story which struck close to Peter's heart, it is the story of the Anzacs.
This is my first time to Gallipoli, but really, I've been seeing this place all my life.
He faced his battle with cancer with amazing calm.
It's a hard emotion to quantify. I felt far from happy, of course, but not unhappy. I wasn't shocked. I think I'd been expecting that there'd be some sort of problem. Basically, mate, it's just a question of dealing with it.
So, perhaps, no happy ending to Peter Harvey's own story, unless you count the close family and the many, many friends he made along the way. Mark Burrows, 9 News.